Hello and welcome to another episode of Innovate on Purpose, brought to you by the Mindful Innovator, where we help business leaders find clarity so they can grow their business purposefully. We share mindful tips, innovative solutions, and purposeful leadership advice that you can apply immediately to your business and life. Johanna Derbolowsky is our special guest today. I'm so grateful to have her here. She is a speaker, a best-selling author of the book, The Transformation Promise, which helps audiences and clients overcome their own limiting patterns in business and life to move forward with confidence. Her 5-step program, the 5 W's to healing and success, has empowered her clients to see the bigger picture with clarity and making choices they are proud of. She also helped professionals worldwide to be more effective using their own innate psychic abilities, from identifying hidden agendas to underlying issues not visible at first. Ms. Derbolowsky is the developer of the Quantum Heart Field Experience, and I love experiences. And she is a life and business coach, recognized metaphysical teacher, and has been at the forefront of healing and transformation. Based in Southern California, she speaks and teaches to people within the US and Europe and has a virtual office for private clients. Today, we are going to uncover some stressful challenges in our lives and how we can more easily get to innovative solutions for our businesses and ourselves personally. So, Johanna, thank you so much for being here on Innovate on Purpose.
I am really happy to be here and
And
glad to be
thank
on
you.
the show.
This is going to be fun. Johanna and I, we've known each other now for probably like 6 months or so, but it feels like it's been forever. And it's just amazing to see the parallels that we have with innovation and corporate business and the work that you're doing, even though you might not see it right away, with quantum work and intuition and the work that you do. But it's absolutely amazing. But just I would love for you, from your own words, just to be able to tell the audience a little bit about exactly what you do and how you help your clients.
I first meet them, I prefer to meet them actually over the phone and not in person so that I don't get judgmental or preconceived ideas about the person. And then just zero in on what is it, what is happening right now in their life, how are they going to deal with that, and where do they want to go. So, really, what happens is when we encounter a problem or need to innovate really fast to stay afloat in the business world, we kind of freeze up. And fear, freezing up, all those things stagnate the energy that we need to actually innovate. So, the first thing I think is to realize what is the situation. The second is how do we move out of stuckness, fear, or whatever else, shell shock, to get the energy flowing again. And then once we get the energy flowing again, we can actually look at the issues. What is holding us back and how are we going to get past that?
That's really interesting. So it's like almost like, well, I guess you're dealing with the issue from like a completely different level, not rational, where like as business leaders, we're usually focused in on, hey, bottom line sales are not doing well. And we need to implement a sale or a different strategy into the market to get this thing to work. And it might not be the best approach. And you're finding ways almost like on a subconscious level, if I'm like kind of understanding correctly, right?
Well, any kind of fear or pressure is a tightness. So ideas don't flow when we're in tightness because the channels for the ideas to flow just are not open for that. So it's different from, some people work really well under pressure and they like this, wow, I have to come up with something now. That is different because they're just procrastinating and then opening the floodgates at the last minute when they have no other option, but they are
Mm-hmm.
opening the floodgates for that. So they need the pressure for that. I was guilty of that earlier in my life until I discovered that that's really not a healthy way of living to, procrastinate and then be under pressure. But when you realize what is happening when a problem arises, you just check, where am I going here? because
Mm-hmm.
usually when a problem arises, we immediately go into some form of fear, and that fear will then stop the ideas from coming. So if
Okay,
we
so we
look at
enter this
it,
stressful situation, and now we have this problem. Like, what should a leader do, like, immediately when they start feeling that stress?
I think the first thing to do, which is part of the 5 steps, is look, where is it pointing you. So if something happens that stops you from moving forward, or a problem arises, there's always another direction. So is it pointing you to throw in the towel and start something new? Or is it pointing you to a new direction? And to, instead of looking at the door that closes, you look at the doors that are appearing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always doors.
Yeah. And sometimes we're just like holding on to the way that it has been rather than looking at the doors that are opening for us.
Yeah, which is like the worst thing you can do, because that'll, lead nowhere.
Yeah.
Because we're
Um,
moving. We have to move. We have to constantly move, and we're constantly evolving. We're constantly learning something. So the more we look to where are things pointing us, the easier it is to just move forward
mhm.
with
Now, like,
everything, because life will move you forward.
yes, so true. So, like, as a business leader, though, I could see where I can understand why you would be hesitant to go towards those new doors. You have, stockholders and a board that's you're reporting to, and they expect business to be done this certain way. This is our channel of business. This is the way it's always been. We hear that all the time. And to look in a different direction sometimes can be super challenging. So, like, is there any advice that you would give to, like, as far as a leader, of when they should start looking at those doors, or how do they get leadership on board?
Every day. They should look at those doors every day. Every morning they should look at, where is this day pointing me?
Mm.
Where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to learn? And I mean, if you look at it every day and you see, like, where's my direction, you're one step ahead of everybody else. And then, you find somebody that does innovation really well to help you figure out what that exactly is for you. But
Hmm.
the answers are always there. We're never without
Yeah,
answers.
yeah, and I think that's a great point, Johanna. Where it's like we should be looking at those doors every single day, because, like, when we just ignore it, and a lot of times we just ignore the problems, that's just another day further away from or closer to our demise, or you know not being able to shift soon enough, to where if we're looking at those doors every single day, we can kind of predict and move ahead of schedule, which is really important for innovation.
I think
So what kind
the
of practice
biggest
can an innovator or a leader use um, to start doing that? So, like, okay, I got this friend over here. He's our innovator, and he needs to um, start using this process tomorrow. Start looking for those doors. How does he look for the door?
Well, you do it with meditation. It's a great way to do
Mm,
that. Just go inward and center yourself. And people that are not that good at meditating, that have this like very active monkey mind, I think the first step is to, we've always done it this way, doesn't work. It doesn't work for anything, because we cannot get back to the past. It's gone. We don't have that option. So even if we try to do it the same way again, it will be different. So the thing is, let's just forget about trying to do it in an old
mm-hmm.
fashioned way that is not working. So when we do things the same way, we also need to give it a new spin every day.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. So um, now you talk a lot about quantum shifting, and I wanted to talk a little bit more about about that because it is very fascinating. Full transparency, Johanna and I, we worked on some quantum shifting. She shifted me. So I was having a challenge with moving my business forward, and I was kind of stuck. I was stuck in this place where I couldn't move, and I knew that I needed to change, but I just couldn't get there. And we went through this process of really feeling it out and understanding how to shift over. But I would love, Johanna, just to kind of explain to the audience again, what is quantum shifting and how can that help our business leaders?
Well, quantum shifting is based on quantum physics, which means that nothing is real or solid. We're all moving particles that are changing and moving at all times. So in quantum shifting, the other thing it's based on is one of my favorite scientists, Albert Einstein, who said that you cannot solve a problem by the consciousness that created it. So no matter what the problem is, in order to shift it, we need to get out of the consciousness that created the problem. And the tendency of the human mind is to go back and hold on. We always want to hold on to what we have. But that's contrary to reality, that everything is always moving and we can't hold on to it. So if we just allow things to flow, we allow the molecules to appear in a different configuration, we can just kind of play with it, be light. So again, that's opposite of fear. We're going into the playground and playing with it and seeing, well, what if this is going to work? That
Mm-hmm.
alone already will open a door. And then you just have to completely let go of what you're holding on to. And the funny thing is, we do that as human beings, but it has never worked. We can't hold on to the past. And we're afraid of movement, but everything is movement. And we want security, but security is an illusion. We have no security and no power over what's going to happen in the next moment.
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
don't I don't
Mhm.
like to think of it as that you're going to shift into this new reality and you get everything that you want. That quantum level of molecules is the entire universe. So we're going into the science now. When I was a kid, I really loved that book, Chaos Theory, with the butterfly that flaps its wings in China and I will feel the breeze in Europe. We're all connected. So if we truly want to experience shifts, we have to be in consideration that it has to be good for everything because it's connected to everything. So
Mhm.
if you come from a very selfish, self-centered, greedy state, it will come get you eventually because it's not good for everybody.
That is such an interesting point. So if you think about like, a business leader, like that's like an executive, they are held to these strict goals. Like they have to return a certain amount every quarter. And if you're trying to use this process to deliver higher stock prices, it's not going to probably be effective. And it's definitely not best for humanity. It's not for oneness. It's very self-centered. So that's definitely an interesting way for everyone here to kind of just think about this a little bit differently. If you tried manifestation, if you tried to, to make these things kind of just forcefully happen through any type of process like this, and it hasn't worked, well, maybe that's why. So maybe just shift your thought and thinking to, well, how can I get great results and great goals, but where everybody gets the win? It's like from Stephen A. Covey, where he writes the book about the 7 habits of highly effective people. It's always finding that win-win is when you have that success. So maybe that's a kind of a way for executives here to look at this, is where it's like, okay, what's the win-win before I start to quantum shift?
Well, you just have to put that out as an intent and you have to put
Mm-hmm.
it out. I mean, there's some businesses that know they're not doing anybody any good but themselves. So those are usually not the people that would come to find out about quantum shifting. And I think it's just the mindset. There's nothing in that mindset that says you should not be successful, you should always be poor or anything like that, because people are afraid of it. But the truth is, we're in this together. We're one set of molecules in this universe. And whatever we do will affect everything, and whatever affects everything will also affect us in return.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that said, instead of a company saying, okay, I'm making my 5 shareholders rich, to say, I'm going to make everybody feel good in this company with my new innovative idea, and I'm also going to make my shareholders happy, that would be the win-win situation. To
Absolutely, and maybe even donate some of those earnings too, just to keep it going further and impact more, like that butterfly that flaps its wings in China and you feel it over here.
Yeah, I mean, we need to just think that togetherness now. We're coming out of the old age of the me, and we need to move into the us thinking everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're also on this planet, if we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to be extinct before too
Yeah. Yes.
long.
Absolutely.
So I think that in the future, I mean, it's my opinion, that the companies that will really succeed in the future are the ones that take all that into consideration.
Absolutely, and we're seeing that trend happen in industries everywhere. That consumers are expecting businesses to take accountability for the problems that we have on this earth, and they want sustainability. I mean, consumers, they want businesses to be sustainable, not necessarily do they want their behaviors to be sustainable. So they're expecting it from business. So if a company out there is not following that yet, I mean, yeah, they're not going to be around that much longer because it's just becoming table stakes. So absolutely, business needs to do their part in being a part of the solution and can't stand there waiting anymore.
So, the other thing that I'm working with is obviously clairvoyance, meaning tapping into the information that comes from the universe or from somebody else's spirit or out of the all knowing awareness. When you work with that, you have to have a certain amount of trust. You have to trust that that information that you're getting is in effect valuable, and you also have to trust that you are entitled to that information because you are part of it. It is your information as much as it is everybody else's information. So
Mm-hmm.
again, if I come from a space where I think like, oh my God, the competition is also going to have access to this, then I'm I'm immediately cut off from that. So it's
Mm-hmm.
okay. It's an abundant universe. And my interpretation of any information will be different than the next person's interpretation of the same information. So we can coexist and we can do this together. I mean, I firmly believe that we can actually really transform if we go with our integrity and thinking about us as a whole species that does not want to become extinct.
Yes, definitely. And like just to kind of bring it back down to a level for like just look, Johanna, that's awesome. It sounds great. I just need to run my business. I need to innovate and grow this thing. Uh, but there's a way to do both of these things, and I think that what I'm hearing is that, well, one, do no harm, like is number one, right? We shouldn't be tapping into these tools, and you really can't tap into these tools if you're going to try and do harm. So it's do no harm and find that win-win. What's that win-win? And then from there, making that quantum shift and looking at those opening doors and stop holding on to the past, because like you said, like everything is always changing. It can't be as it was yesterday because it's today, and it's going to change. In fact, I loved when you told me one of our first conversations, like your book, The Transformation Promise, and the reason why you said it was called that was because, well, it's a promise that there's going to be transformation tomorrow and every single day after. It's just you're always going to have that transformation. So embracing it is extremely important, and embracing it sooner than later, especially when it comes to innovation, because I mean, the mantras that I absolutely hate, like innovate or die. I mean, in the long run, yeah, it is true. You don't, if you don't acknowledge that there's transformation happening in front of you, and you don't innovate yourself, you're going to die. The business is going to fail eventually. Now, Johanna, so now bringing it back down to that business level, they believe in that. They believe in the win-win. They believe in letting go of the past. Now I am sitting in my office. I meditated. Um, like, how do they start to use their intuition and their innate ability to be able to see with their intuition?
The first step is you have to trust what comes.
Trust.
And that's probably
All
the
right.
hardest one, because
Mm-hmm.
generally we doubt everything that comes, any idea that comes. And, you don't have to be a good person to use these tools. You can be, totally on the dark side, and the information is still available to you. But whatever you put out will come back to you. So that is my only warning. So you can do it for whatever. But you have to, if you hear that voice, you have to trust it.
Mm-hmm.
If you have that idea, you have to act on it. So sometimes those ideas sound really crazy because the universe has a sense of humor and sometimes throws you little things just to see if you're going to go for it.
Mm-hmm.
And and sometimes you go for it and you realize that was not it, but the other thing is right next to it, and you wouldn't have seen it if you wouldn't have gone on this little detour. So I think the bottom thing is trust. If you
Mm-hmm.
trust that you are in the right place at the right time, doing the best you can, you can't go wrong. Life is not a fail thing. Business is not a succeed or fail thing. It's just different stepping stones. People have failed at businesses to open businesses that are really super successful.
Mm-hmm.
So if you
Yeah.
stop being afraid, then, it not working for a couple of weeks, but it's the right thing, then stay with it.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point, Johanna. Yeah, it is definitely embracing it and not being afraid, and that's kind of what you've taught me in this process of just embracing it and jumping in. So I am so grateful for that, and
Well,
I
no,
feel so much better. I'm sorry, Johanna.
I'm not going to ask how that turned out to you for you,
It's
but
turning out wonderful. I mean, so far it's like, whenever you have change, it's not going to be easy at first, but it's part of the process, and you kind of just trust the system, right? You trust the universe and things that it's bringing you, and that you're on the right path. And that's kind of where I was stuck, in a path that was leading me nowhere. So, like you said, you take that step, you get a great learning, and you trust your intuition, trust your gut, and you take that next step, uh, and you keep on moving forward. And one of the things that I'm like super excited about is a project that we're working on together, which is called Purpose in Paradise, and it's a retreat that we are organizing in February of 2024. It's a amazing retreat that's going to take our two skill sets and transform the lives and businesses of many people in the future, but only for a select few in February, because we're doing it in a very small group, a small setting, to create this almost one-on-one atmosphere and a collective brain trust of 15 executives. And it's going to be an amazing experience where we're going to help leaders find their purpose, internally, themselves, like, what lights somebody up? Is it guitars and being with their family? Okay, great. What do they love about that? And then how do you infuse those things that you love into your business? And then how do you quantum shift into this new belief system, into this new way of going to business? I mean, I'm so excited to be able to do this with you, Johanna. It's going to be a ton of fun. I mean, um, why do people need to go to this?
well, it's very easy to answer that. So you have your meditation time and you get to find that purpose within or what you like. But there is that thing about that the eye can't see itself. So we're kind of not, we're never really objective with ourselves and looking at ourselves and our issues. So we need an outside person. So that's where coaches come in, and doctors and everything else to do that. And that's where we come in on this retreat to help people to see what they're missing when they're looking at themselves. Because when we look at ourselves, we're subjective. We have an excuse for everything. I mean, it's we definitely do not have objectivity. And other people, especially with their intuition and stuff, can supply that objectivity to each other. And then once you have that down and you know where your big blocks are or your little steps that you're tripping over, then you can move forward. And with the quantum shifting that we're going to do at the end of the retreat, we're just going to ask the molecules to fall into place with what we've come up with on that retreat. And it's going to be the first one in February, but there'll be plenty more to come.
Yes, plenty more for sure. We have big plans with this, but executive leaders that are feeling overwhelmed and alone in their own business. I mean, I know it's tough to be able to trust people within your organization with some of your most vulnerable thoughts and your ideas because of those fears. And you're afraid to take that step. This is a great place to come to really find that clarity so that you can lead confidently that organization that you're in and do it with a lot more passion and to be happy, just happy in life and happy in your business. So many people are facing burnout right now and that loneliness factor. In fact, I think it was a Harvard Business Review that we were looking at that showed that over 70% of leaders feel like they are alone, which is absolutely nuts. So this is going to be a great retreat where you're going to be able to really focus in on yourself, reconnect, and move forward. So, like Johanna, when we talk about that quantum shift in at the end of this week here, like what are some of the things that they can expect, the day after they leave, to kind of experience?
Well, it's like the butterfly wing. You don't really know what's going to happen on your end. So it's always a surprise. I have never found it to not be a really pleasant surprise as to how things fall into place when you're all cleared for your path.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes, that may result in that the space that you come from, if you're shifting, that has to fall apart because you can't be in both with 2 feet in two different worlds. So if you're leaving the world of your problems behind, that world has to kind of crumble and disappear to come back together in that new, more exciting world. And that's also where, I mean, that also happens for us naturally all the time, but we jump back into the old world because we think like, let me go back there. I know that. I know the problems. And
Yeah.
surprisingly, people love their problems.
Mm-hmm. It kind of reminds me of like when you are going into a pool that's really cold and like you want to go in the pool, but it's like you kind of want to just like go in gradually. And it's like it's really hard to go in gradually. So if you just jump in and get it over with, it's like you have this transformation, like, finally I'm in the pool after you get over that initial shock. And that kind of reminds me of the quantum shift that I went through with you, where it was like as soon as we shifted, I had a fallout with the company that I was working with. And they're like, look, you need to choose this path or that path, and it's either us or not. And I was like, okay, well, it's kind of forcing my hand to jump into this pool full on of, innovating with purpose and mindful innovation. So, all right, let's just do it. So it kind of just made me shift over. But since I've made that shift, it's only been like 2 months, not even. I mean, so many doors are opening up. My intuition is much more stronger. Like Johanna, before we planned this retreat, the day before that you asked me to start something like this, I actually had this vision of doing a workshop on the sand on a beach in Florida, and I wanted to do this with executives. And I was like, oh my gosh! And then you mentioned this, and I was like, yeah, yes, we have to do it. I had like kind of that kind of higher self like flag, like this is something that you need to do. So like, and then other doors started opening up with other people that are reaching out to me. And it's just amazing to see how when you embrace it and you do that quantum shift, I mean, things will fall apart. And then all of a sudden you're going to see things come together at the same time. So it's going to be super exciting for executives to that feel overwhelmed right now in the current situation, don't have that clarity, to leave that event and all of a sudden, boom, have that clarity and start moving in a direction that they're going to love. So it's going to be an amazing experience.
Yeah, and I
Now,
think especially with the feeling overwhelmed, a lot of people that are overwhelmed, they're so in this bucket of overwhelmed that they can't see the outside of it. And
mm-hmm.
then what happens is that it's kind of like the Stockholm syndrome. You fall in love with the being overwhelmed because it becomes your identity. And so you create more and more being overwhelmed and things that always need fixing. And so this is what we're going to shift for you. We're going to get you out of your buckets, whatever they are, whether it is your industry shifting and you don't know what to do about it, or you just feel lonely or overwhelmed. We get you out of your buckets that you're stuck with in with a lot of tar gluing your feet to the ground, and get you moving and hopefully flying, just really enjoying yourself to the next adventure.
Yeah. And kind of a bonus too is that you'll be in Florida on the beach when it's cold everywhere else. So if you're coming into town from anywhere north, it's going to be a beautiful weekend, 3-day retreat on the beach of Florida, on the beach in Florida, sunset cruise, just time on the beach in the evening time, watching sunsets and putting up in the air Chinese lanterns. It's going to be absolutely amazing and a ton of fun. And if you don't make it to this one, we'll have plenty more. Don't worry. They're all coming, but this one here is going to be super special. And where can people learn more about this retreat?
Well, you
I'll tell you
can.
where you can.
I was just going to
you,
say there's not going to be any cold pools, maybe a sauna with a cold plunge, but we're not going to make you jump into a cold pool because it's Florida. They don't know what cold water is.
yeah. Well, the beach, the ocean is too cold for me in February because I live in Florida, so my blood has thinned out. Originally New York, but my blood has thinned out, and I can't go in the water unless it's like over 85. So it might only be like 82, and that's just way too cold for me. But pools are beautiful down here too. So yeah, it's going to be nice and paradisey. So you'll love it. But you can learn more at purposeinparadise.coach. That's purposeinparadise.coach. And you can also learn more about Johanna on quantumheartfield.com and learn a little bit more about exactly what she does. And I know she can change your life and transform your life. So I would definitely check out her coaching. I know it has helped me in my journey and changing things for me. And I know she can do the same for you. So, Johanna, any last words of advice for our audience today?
Yeah, live lightly. Just don't take things so serious, and that will allow a lot more flow of ideas and things and everything. Life will go on without you worrying about it so much.
Oh, I love it. Oh my gosh. I just realized too, and that's a beautiful statement. And the resort that we're going to, which is called the Tradewinds Resort in St. Petersburg, Florida, their song, I promise I won't sing it, but that like their jingle is "Just Let Go."
Well, that fits. So this will be like an amazing retreat. So I hope you can come. And if you need a good innovation coach, Matt is phenomenal and he really knows his stuff. I've learned an awful lot just by listening to him, and on how to go about innovation, which was a field I didn't know that much about.
Oh, thank you, Johanna. Well, I appreciate you coming on Innovate on Purpose, brought to you by the Mindful Innovator podcast. And I am so looking forward to the retreat and continuing the work that we're doing together. And I am so grateful for the advice that you are giving everybody here. This is going to add so much value to innovators and business leaders all around the world. So thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Of course. We'll have to do it again for sure on another episode.
Okay, I'm here.